everyone, welcome to Pretty Over 50. I'm Kimberly and I'm really glad you're here. So today we're going to talk about that challenging subject of under eye bags and what do we do with them when we have more mature skin. I know I've had the conversation with myself of, is it really worth trying to use concealer when I have all these creases and nooks and crannies and wrinkles under my eyes? Does it just make everything look worse? Maybe you have that same conversation with yourself. And I know it's becomes so much more of a challenge as we get a little bit older to deal with these under eye bags. Not only is that a challenge, but then there's that whole issue of finding products that play well together. So you may find a concealer that you really like, but you find out it's not working with your foundation and doesn't blend well. Or you use a primer that you love, but you found that the concealer that you're using just doesn't work with the primer. So it becomes kind of a cocktail of ingredients that we have to figure out what's going to work and how are we really going to address these dark under eye bags when we have a little bit of texture underneath our eyes. So today I want to share with you a wonderful combination that I found, and I really kind of just stumbled upon it and sort of dumb lucked into it. I wasn't really intending to find a great under eye concealer combination, but I just happened to get lucky. And I'm going to share that with you today. We're going to go through the whole process and I'll talk with you a little bit about how it works for me, and maybe it's something that will work for you too. I'll tell you how this sort of started. The under eye concealer we're going to be working with today is the Rimmel Lasting Finish Breathable Under Eye Concealer. And I use the color Fair, and it's the number 100. The way that I came upon this concealer, I wasn't really even looking for a great under eye concealer combination. I just happened to be in my local CVS and they were having a sale on all the Rimmel products for 75% off. So I thought, well, heck, I just started grabbing things and throwing them in my cart, and this was one of them. I took it home and I tried it with one of the primers I was working and it just wasn't a good result at all. And so I kept trying to, work with it and mess with it. And so I used it with the e.l.f. Mineral Infused Primer. This is one that I love. And if you've seen my other videos, you know that I love to use this. Used the Rimmel concealer, and then I actually used the e.l.f. Finishing HD powder with it. And I put it on in the morning, went out and did a lot of things during the day, came home to check what it looked like, and to be honest with you, I thought it would just be a hot mess. I really just threw it together just to see what would happen, with no expectation that there was going to be good results, because I'm not really that familiar with what Rimmel puts together for their concealers, and this is not a loose setting powder. So I really didn't have high expectations, but I can remember the first time I used this combination, the e.l.f. primer, the Rimmel concealer, and then the e.l.f. finishing powder. I came home and checked and I was blown away. My under eyes looked great and that concealer hadn't moved. It was amazing, and I kept checking the mirror over and over and over again. I've got, I think it's a 6 or 7 times mirror, and I kept looking and looking and looking, and it just hadn't moved, and it still looked great. So I've tried it several more times, and it's become kind of my go-to combination to address the dark circles under my eyes. So I thought I'd do a little demo with it today, show you how I put it on, and maybe it's something that will work for you too. Let's go ahead and get started, and I'll show you how I put together this little combination of primer, under eye concealer, and then a setting powder. You can see my face right now. I've got my eyes done, I've got my eyebrows done, but my face itself is just been moisturized in my serums in my little morning routine. So I'm going to go ahead and start today with the e.l.f. Mineral Infused Primer, and I'm just going to put a little squirt on the back of my hand. You can see how much I use, not much, and then I just take it with my fingers and spread it on my face. This has a real silky, very light feel to it. It's a very, very comfortable primer, and I really enjoy it. And all the little areas in my skin that seem to have all the nooks and crannies. And then today for a foundation, I'm going to use the Loreal True Match. This is a foundation I've used a lot and I really do quite like it. I don't know that it's one of my holy grails, but it's a very reliable go-to foundation. And I use the color Classic Ivory, the number N2. I'm just going to put some of that around my face. And I'm going to blend that in with a dampened beauty blender. And for me, it's always important to get the sides of my face where I've got some pretty colorful sunspots. This is really a very light, very comfortable foundation with good coverage. I'd say it's medium to full coverage depending on how much you build it up. It's pretty easy to pat out over the skin. I've noticed on myself that when I first put it on, like in this step right now, it can look a little bit chalky, but as the warmth of my skin mixes with the product, it really kind of evens out and gives a nice finish. A little bit down the neck. Okay, so we've got that foundation blended in. Pretty happy with the way, you know, it really does do a good job. You can see on the sides of covering my sunspots. I think I should name them. Should I name them the different countries that I laid on the beach at? That might be kind of a fun thing, huh? All right, so then I'm going to take the Rimmel Lasting Finish Concealer, and it has one of those little sponge tips, which I'm not a huge fan of. But I've just learned to work with it. So I'm going to squeeze just a little bit out on my hand, and you can see how much I've got there. And this is actually probably even a little bit too much. So I'm just going to dab a little bit on my ring finger and start putting that on my under eye. Now I found that it works best for me if I kind of look up while I'm doing this. And just very gently tapping that in. This concealer has a very nice feel to it. It doesn't feel sticky or heavy. It has a fairly light weight on the skin. It's pretty comfortable. Other side, just start tapping it in. And I always try to get, you know, up inside the corners of my eyes where I really can seem to have some dark circles. Just tapping that around very lightly. This is how the concealer looks before the setting powder. It's a very smooth, very even finish, and even though it's really covered up a lot of my dark circles, it doesn't feel heavy and it doesn't feel like I've got something really cakey underneath my eyes. Once I've got it kind of smoothed out with my little pinky finger, I go back in with that damp beauty blender and very gently press it in again. This seems to just give it a nice sort of silky finish. Once I have that all tapped out with the beauty blender, then pretty quickly I go in with the setting powder. This is the e.l.f. HD setting powder, and this is a translucent powder. You can see what it looks like here. I really like this powder and it's a great price point. Then I also take an e.l.f. brush. This is just a real soft, kind of tapered brush. You can see how big it is compared to my finger. And I just gently rub it into the product, get a little bit on the brush, and then I tap it off. And I really do tap most of it off. You can see there's very little product left on that brush right there. And I just very gently lay that under my eye. And I do the other side. gently lay that under my eye. And then the final step is, once I've got that finishing powder on, I go back in with my beauty blender and I just press very gently into that area. And there we have it. My experience with this, and I've worn this combination, gosh, maybe 20 times, is that this concealer does not move. It literally does not move. It will be there at the end of a very, very long day. I'm gonna jump off now, finish up with my bronzers and blushers and finishing powders, and I'll be right back with you. Well, I've added my bronzers, blush, and some setting powder and a little bit of lipstick. It's the new Warm Me Up color from Maybelline. I'm really loving this. It's a beautiful neutral color. I hope that was helpful for you. You can see how the concealer and the primer and the setting powder all work together with the rest of the face. I really enjoy this combination. If you end up trying it, please put a comment down below and let me know how it works for you. I'm really kind of curious to see if this is as successful for others as it is for me. So again, today we were using the e.l.f. Mineral Infused Primer with the Rimmel Lasting Finish Breathable Concealer, and then the e.l.f. Perfecting HD Powder to set it. And it's a combination that I'm loving. I hope you love it too. Again, this is Pretty Over 50. I'm Kimberly. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. And if it was helpful for you, give me a like. That would be wonderful. So thank you for joining me. I'm Kimberly. This is Pretty Over 50, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.